All right, it is noon. It is noon my time, 3 o'clock East Coast time. It is time to get the HMIS Capacity Building NOFA office hours started. I'm Mary Schwartz, and I am a technical assistance provider with APT. I'll be introducing today's webinar, and I'll help with the Q&A at the end. Our friends at Center for Social Innovation will be providing the technical assistance this time with Adobe Connect. We appreciate you participating in this relaunched webinar, and we hope the experience is improved this time around. I'm joined today by Fran Ledger from the SNAPS office. Hi, Fran.
Hello, everyone. Today's
topic is on the HMIS NOFA. We'll start with a brief overview of the topic, and there will be lots of time at the end for questions. As we begin, as most of you are doing already, please introduce yourself in the chat box on the screen and let us know your name and COC. During the training, all participants will be in listen-only mode. We encourage you to submit questions in the chat box as well as talk with other participants via the chat box. It's located on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have typed in your name and COC, you have found it. So that is where all the questions will go. Please be aware we'll be making comments posted in the chat box available to everyone. We're also recording this webinar, and it will be posted later. Please listen to the webinar using your computer rather than using a phone line. If you have trouble hearing the audio through your computer speakers, please request assistance through the chat box as well. I've seen some of you have done that already as well, so we will do our best to assist you. If you would like to zoom in on the slides we're sharing today, you can make them larger with the full screen button in the upper right-hand corner of the display. To exit the full screen, just press the escape key on your keyboard. This allows you to view the presentation without the boxes or to switch back to the box view so you can pose a question or comment. And the slides will be available towards the end of the presentation for you. You'll be able to download them, and we'll also provide you a link to the actual HMIS NOFA if you don't have that already. Okay, so we're going to get into the slides. And I think I will turn it over to Fran now, correct?
That sounds good, yes.
Great.
So why did HUD create the NOFA? Really, what we're seeing is we put out the SNAPS office put out a TA strategy, and it's really looking at data and performance and how we can help communities do better with data and performance. And we know that there's a lot of communities struggling with their HMIS, either around data quality, bed coverage, all those types of things that impacts a community's ability to use data effectively. And so this NOFA is exciting because we're trying to bring up those that are experiencing kind of the greatest challenges and having a successful HMIS. So that's kind of the background on it. The TA strategy that I'm talking about, that's available on the HUD Exchange. You can look at that, and it will talk a little bit about what our expectations are, hopefully in 3 to 5 years, what we'd like to see. Mary went through a couple of these topics already, so you know that everybody's muted, so please use the chat for questions. And after the office hours open, we have a couple ways for you to get a hold of us. The easiest thing is to go to ask a question and submit a question through that mechanism. Also on the HMIS NOFA itself at the very end, it gives you an email that you can actually email. But whichever way that you submit something, it's getting to the same set of people, so it's okay. Just use whatever is the easiest. Mary already did acknowledgments, so I'm with the SNAPS office. I'm very excited to be here with you today, and we're going to do this agenda first so you know what we're going to talk about. We'll do the NOFA overview. I'm going to talk about eligibility so you can figure out whether you are eligible for applying for this NOFA. We'll talk about the different eligible activities and HMIS consolidation, which is a question that's coming up a lot. What does that mean? What is high need? We'll talk a little bit about that. I have some scenarios in here that hopefully will be helpful, and then we'll move over to the general Q&A. So who is eligible? Very specifically, it needs to be an existing COC program. So UFAs, collaborative applicants, and HMIS leads are the ones that can apply for this. And so you're either applying to improve your existing HMIS, or you're applying on behalf of some other COCs. So you can have one COC that is the applicant, but then subs awards to other COCs based on what they need if they're consolidating with them. So you'll see that option also in the NOFA. And you're going to see 4 sets of slides here. They each are going to kind of go into the different activity types. And this is, we described this at the very beginning of the HMIS NOFA document. When you look at it, we break it down into these 4 pieces, where the first one is around HMIS consolidation. And this is really about finding those or identifying yourself as one of those HMIS that have a high need, and you want to consolidate with another COC, another HMIS implementation that is doing well, that's successful, that really can help support that COC's HMIS growing, improving, doing better. And in the consolidation, what's happening is you're either consolidating the HMIS software or databases with another COC. I will go into more detail on the consolidation piece, so we'll get to that in just a second. But on the slide, you see a list of things that are eligible activities in this area, this HMIS consolidation. And so these are typically things that we see when there is a consolidation, which is transferring data from one HMIS software instance to another. It can be integrating data sets. So you could transfer and not integrate. You can transfer and integrate. So it just depends on what's needed. You may find that as you're doing this consolidation, that you're correcting, removing corrupt or inaccurate client and service data records, so cleaning, if you're familiar with that, so you can do some data cleaning. You can do some customization, configuration. So when you are doing a consolidation, the different COCs might have different things that their HMIS does for them. And so you will want to come to agreement about how you want the system configured. So it includes that. Of course, you have to transfer end user accounts and access controls. And this is the only case in this entire NOFA, the only eligible activity where you could actually do an HMIS software product change. You may change from one HMIS software to a different software. But it needs to be, because that is going to be what makes this consolidation successful. What we think we'll likely see is you may have a state where you have 2 COCs and they're using a different product, and they decide, we want to merge together, but we're going to need to pick one of the software products, and then the other COC is going to transfer to that software. So we may see something like that. We may see, a community asking to actually everybody changes to a new software. So that's the only eligible activity that you can do that under. The other activities, this one is also, we'll get into in a little bit about some of the requirements depending on what the activities you want to carry out. And so this one has a lot of similarities to the HMIS consolidation, and that we're actually talking about like doing something different with the software. And in this one specifically, community might be using, for instance, their HMIS to support their coordinated entry. And there's some things that they really want to do to improve their, what the software is doing, how it's supporting them. And so they may want to do some customization of the software. So that's like one example of something that could be done under this. So it's anything that you want to do that's customizing, configuring the HMIS to be more responsive for you, to be able to get better and good data out of it. So some of the other things is a community may want to take some routines that they're doing manually, and they may want to write a script and automate them. You may also want to change your privacy and security functionality. So those are all things that can happen during that eligible activity. So let's talk about the third one here. Improving HMIS data quality. For that technical assistance strategy that I talked about in the earlier slide, data quality is a huge piece of the strategy. We want to make sure that all of the HMIS can improve their data quality in such a way that they feel like the information they're getting from it is reliable, usable, that really reflects what's going on in the community. And if you have a COC that's really struggling with data quality in the HMIS, this is an area where you could request funding to do this type of these activities that you're seeing under here. So these are things, anything that will be helpful to improve data quality. It includes things like to conduct training, to do some troubleshooting to see what's going wrong, to do data cleanup, to do data transfers if that needs to be what happens. So there's, you see a couple bullets here listing off a couple things. I think that, you know, if you are wanting to do something that you don't see necessarily in these bullets, include it in your application, because it very well may fall within one of these buckets. This is, you know, you can do things other than what's exactly described here. But the point is, on this one, is you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, it's improving your data quality. Now, the fourth one is around training. And for this piece, what we're hoping is that communities can avail themselves of training, whether it's a HUD training that we put on, or it could even be a class at a university. It could be a conference that's not necessarily a HUD conference, but it's a conference specifically to help communities or help participants better use data, to learn how to do data analysis, those types of things, how to become a better system administrator. So we strongly encourage communities to apply for this funding. We think that it's going to really help a lot of communities around strengthening their staff skills and building kind of professionalism across all of our industry around HMIS and system administrators. We really want to bring up the bar, and this allows us to do this. So what I described was those 4 buckets. And what you're seeing now on the page is what's required. So you can submit an application for any one of these areas, multiple areas. But based on whatever eligible activity it is, there are some requirements that come with it. So we tried to put this in a table that was fairly easy to understand. Hopefully it is easy to understand. And I'm going to go through this. I think this is really important. It's something that, you know, reading through the HMIS NOFA, it might not be so clear. And so let's just run through the HMIS consolidation one first. You'll see almost everything listed in that column is required. So HUD is making sure that technical assistance is available to communities that are awarded these funds. And we do this, and actually applicants do. So what we do is, if you apply for funds and you are wanting to do an HMIS consolidation, you'll get support in helping write a portion of the application. We'll get that into that in just a minute. But you also are going to be required that if you do HMIS consolidation, that you avail yourself of HUD technical assistance. And so what we will do is we will provide communities with a technical assistance provider to help the community scope out what the project is going to be, to help look over the budget, and then once awarded, they will actually assist the community with implementing whatever kind of consolidation that they're wanting to do. There needs to be, for an HMIS consolidation, there needs to be some kind of agreement in place between those COCs that are looking to consolidate with each other. There needs to be an MOU so that the required piece. There has to be a HUD-approved budget and proposal, that's what we're calling phase 2 of this. And again, we'll get into that in a second. The software change, notice this is the only place where it's listed and it's limited. The fully compliant HMIS, that needs to be in place. There needs to be shared HMIS governance, and PA providers will help communities understand what that looks like, how to best design a shared governance structure. There needs to be the HMIS governance charter review and updated, so that needs to happen. And everybody's HMIS governance charter needs to be compliant within 12 months of receiving the award. So this is an example where there's a difference between the different eligible activities. For somebody doing an HMIS consolidation, the HMIS governance charter review and update, so the review by the TA providers and then the requirement to do the update, that's required for HMIS consolidation. That piece is not required if you only did training or you only were looking to do data quality work. But everybody across the board would need to make sure that their governance charter was compliant by the time that they received the, 12 months after they received the award. So the last thing in here is the policy and procedures. For the HMIS consolidation, that also is required, that is reviewed, and then you consider the recommendations made by the technical assistance provider and then put those into place. And really as you probably see as we're going through this, we're trying to figure out not only like how we can, through this funding, help HMIS implementations improve, but also through technical assistance. And so we want to make sure that you have both the financial support and you also have subject matter experts who have gone through this with a lot of communities, like in the area of consolidation. You would be assigned somebody who would have experience in consolidations and to help communities figure out what works and what doesn't work and what might be the best choices for them. So under each of these eligible activities, you see a column of things that will either say they're required or they're not applicable. For instance, on the MOU between the COCs, it's only applicable to a consolidation. The rest of them don't need an MOU between the COCs in order to use that funding. What is not eligible? This is the biggie. You know, we're receiving questions on this, and we just want to make sure people are clear that the HMIS software change costs are eligible only in conjunction with an HMIS consolidation, that it doesn't happen separately. So what qualifies as a consolidation? So this is the definition that you'll see in the HMIS NOFA. It's creating a single HMIS governed by a shared HMIS governance charter from 2 or more HMIS that were independently governed by their own HMIS governance charter. I think this is where most of our questions have been falling, is in this bucket of, in my community, what we're thinking about doing, is that considered a consolidation or is it not considered a consolidation? So I expect we'll get some questions around this. But really, the main thing to be thinking about is really the crux of the consolidation is that you're taking a struggling HMIS implementation and you're consolidating them with another COC or HMIS implementation that can help assist in improving that HMIS. And so we've had questions about, you know, there's a description of stuff like it really is a data warehouse that they're operating. Data warehousing does not, adding in data into a data warehouse from a new HMIS implementation does not constitute a consolidation. Really think about it as we have separate HMIS implementations. We're going to do the consolidation, so we have one HMIS. And then we're going to work together to make sure we have this shared governance. There's also kind of two variations on this. One is it can be a consolidation maybe accompanied with a COC merger, for example. So COCs may be merging together, and when they do that, they actually have to merge their HMIS implementations. And so that would fall under a consolidation. This gets to that piece I talked about earlier, that you not only are going to be consolidating these two systems, but you're actually going to be integrating the data too. So you're going to take a little step further. But that's one form. The other might be that you have something that looks like the statewide or regional multi-COC implementation where you end up with several COCs on the same implementation. Data could be disclosed between COCs, but it doesn't have to be. It can still be a consolidation even when those COCs have their information on the same implementation, but the data is not disclosed across those COCs. So that's don't be concerned about the data sharing, data disclosure piece when you're trying to think about, is this a consolidation or not? Certainly you need to be concerned about it in general, but in trying to figure out whether what you want to do fits in the consolidation part, that data sharing piece is not relevant to this part of it.
So Fran, I'm going to cut in here a little. Do you want to take a few questions from the presenter panel or no?
I will. Okay.
Okay.
Sure thing. So this is from. Do you want to read these off, or you want me to read them off? I can.
Either way. I mean, why don't you take a break and I'll read them off.
So
Ann Cooper says, is HMIS consolidation between two contiguous COCs that are in two separate states allowable? So she gives an example there of Bristol, Tennessee, and Bristol, Virginia being in two different states, but they're closer to other COCs, so they might consolidate.
Right. There's no restriction in that. Of course, there's a lot of considerations, just like any two COCs that border each other could be on the same implementation. You just have to think about the reporting side of things, making sure that the data can be, that each COC is able to report out on the data that's in there. And then also, you might have that extra layer of thinking about privacy when you think about maybe state laws that might be different in the two states. But as far as the consolidation piece, there is no requirement that the consolidations only happen within a single state boundary.